Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Good to have you in the studio with me today. We're going to paint this guy right over here. It is I don't even know the dimensions of it, but it is a gallery wrapped larger size canvas. We're going to paint that and we're going to learn a lot. But before we do, I just want to let you guys know also if you have any questions or anything that you're wondering about, maybe things that I haven't talked about, things that you wish you knew regarding my channel, regarding the way I paint or anything, any questions at all, let me know in the comment section below and I'll try to answer them as best I can. So let's jump into it. We're going to start off by toning our canvas, and the canvas on the right is actually the one that we're going to be using today, but you can kind of see how I tone my canvases here, just covering them with a thin layer of paint and turpentine. But after we do that, we're going to go ahead and let that dry. And after it has dried, we're ready to apply the sketch. And I have already designed a composition that I'm going to be sketching directly onto the canvas via digital projector, which is a little bit of a hack for somebody who wants to get their composition exact. Now let's take a look at our palette. We got Ultramarine Blue. We're going to be using some Phthalo Blue. We got Viridian Hue, which is a nice sea green. Medium Yellow. Burnt Sienna. Burnt Umber. And rounding it off, we got Titanium White. And I'm going to be starting off the painting using a 2-inch brush. And also, I use a medium, it's linseed oil. That's the only medium that I use with my paints. It just helps the flow. And I'm going to apply some of that directly onto my palette. And also, you see that little mason jar lid with the paint inside of it? That's my paint slew. I just draw my paint from that, and any leftovers, I just keep in there and put it into the freezer, which preserves my paint for a good long while. And I'm mixing up a sky color, and I'm going to go ahead and start painting that sky because that is what is furthest away. And I found that having a method for working your way to completing the first layer of paint really helps. And I have found that starting with what's farthest away and then working your way forward to the foreground is a great way to just systematically apply your underpainting. So that's what we're doing here. I'm going to do the block-in stage of the painting, which is basically, you've heard me talk about it a lot. You guys pretty much know what it is if you watch my videos. That is going to be the underpainting that I'm going to let dry and then paint on top of later. Now, a key to starting your painting I have found that just really helps me out is to think about this first stage of painting as just really aggressive. You're getting in there, you're moving a lot of paint quickly, you're not getting bogged down in any details, and you're not concerned necessarily with how it is looking in terms of a complete finished painting. You're focusing on color, you're focusing on the shapes, you're focusing on the tone, and you're just getting in there and almost painting a painting that is, you know, maybe a little impressionistic or painterly. So don't think about details, don't think about rendering the painting. This is a very non-rendered form of your painting. And as you can see, I am using pretty large brushes. These are large brushes that cover ground and help me keep from getting too detailed. So I am actually relatively new to oil painting. I think I did my first ever oil painting like a couple years ago. And before that, I really never painted seriously. But if I was to give advice to beginners who want to improve their skills and want to paint at a higher level but just aren't quite sure how, I would say, and this would be me speaking to a younger me, I would say don't be too precious with your paintings. If you're like me, you waste a lot of time trying to get it looking right from the outset. Your painting isn't oftentimes going to come together and look the way you want it to till the very end. So just get in there, get your feet wet, start painting, and just think of it from a more generalized perspective until you're ready to put on those final details at the end. So keep that in mind. Don't get discouraged if you're in the early stages and it doesn't look the way you want it. Just keep working with it and don't give up prematurely. Also, I would say don't compare your style or your skill level to other people who you think are better than you. That's just going to squelch your inspiration and keep you from practicing. And practicing is kind of the key, I would say, to getting better. You can explore different things, try different things out, maybe try a few different styles if you're not sure the style that you're most into. That is a great way to improve your skills as well. I would say early on I tended to gravitate definitely towards realism and hyperrealism, photorealism, you know, that level of detail that is just makes it look like a photograph. But as I've gotten more into it, I found a shift take place with my art where I really find the most enjoyment and fulfillment from paintings that are a little bit more impressionistic. I still like detail, but I don't necessarily want to think of my painting as trying to capture something exactly as it is. I like to create a mood, and I like to capture something in my painting that is a little bit more deep than simply what you see. But as much as you see me paint, and as much as you have followed my channel, watched my videos, seen my paintings, maybe checked out my website where I have my paintings for sale, and just thought about me as a professional artist, let me just say that I am at a place of growth. I'm at a place of knowing my limits and realizing that I have a long way to go. I have goals, things that I want to get better at, but I really feel like I am just scratching the surface of things to learn when it comes to producing quality, fine art with oils. I have absolutely no training in art whatsoever. I'm totally self-taught. And what I want to do with this channel is bring you guys along with me step by step in this learning process as I go from basically a starting point of zero know-how and just maybe some inspiration and a simple desire to paint, and get to a place where I'm producing art that I can sell, art that I'm proud of, art that is gallery worthy, art that I feel accomplished with. Let me explain a little bit what I've been doing here in this time-lapse painting of this wave. I toned the canvas with burnt sienna, and actually the canvas that I was working on was originally supposed to be an acrylic painting, so it actually had some acrylic paint already on it, which had been long dry, obviously, had it sitting for years, but I painted over the top of it with my oil paint, which is totally fine. I looked it up, and you can do that. I let that dry, then I put the sketch on, then I let that dry, and then I was able to paint the underpainting on over the top of that, and now I'm getting into the modeling. And as I have been painting with oil paint, I found out that it's a great idea to have these shop towels in your studio because they just soak up oil paint really well, and I'm able to clean my brushes off, which is very important with oil paint because you don't want to be painting colors onto your painting that are leftover colors on your brush. So shop towels really help to clean it off. But yeah, I'm going ahead and I'm getting a little bit more conscious of details and preparing the painting for the final details at the end. So I'm thinking about the movement of the water, I'm thinking about the spray, I'm thinking about where the water droplets are going to be, where the highlights are going to go, and all of that. And I'm starting to build up and render the image so that it looks just a bit more like how I want it. Now, I actually like the way the painting looks now, and I could leave it this way, but depending on how rendered and how detailed you want your painting to be, you're going to move forward from this point and keep rendering it and keep putting those details on. So I want to take this one just a bit further, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm thinking about where I want to add the detail, and I'm thinking more about small areas of the painting as opposed to large areas. And as I have been painting this painting over probably the span of 3 weeks, just because this one's taken me a little bit longer, I really noticed how helpful it is to let your painting totally dry. So often I would get done with a paint sitting where I'd have the painting at a spot where I was happy with it. I would let it sit for 2 to 3 days to let it totally dry, and then I would come back, and that would really, really help me with just advancing with the painting and just getting it to the place where I wanted it, because everything that I liked about it was already dry and set up for more details and more highlights and more shaping, and modeling, etc. on top of that. And so having it dry in between sittings is really helpful to just continue, as I've been talking about, rendering the painting and giving it more detail. So yeah, I would say definitely this painting taught me to let my painting dry if I want to add a lot of detail onto it. So here I'm going over the top of the dry paint in the sky, and I'm just adding a little bit more blue because I thought it needed that. And I'm able to, basically edit the painting like I do with my digital paintings because it's dry. So again, having it dry is really helpful. And as you see me continue to paint here and edit the image, I want to talk a little bit about reference photos, because for me, reference photos are super important to my design process and having a plan for my painting. If you're new to painting, or even if you've been painting for a while and you feel like you can't really get into a rhythm where painting feels easy, where maybe your paintings are just taking a long time, you don't feel like you have any ability to feel like you're getting anywhere with the painting, I would say maybe check your design process and your planning for the direction of the painting. Before I ever start to paint on the canvas, I always have a design for the painting. I always have a plan for it, and it usually comes in the form of having a image that I have edited, maybe digitally or whatnot, or maybe sketched out, that allows me to know exactly what I'm going for. And as is the case often with my paintings, I've already painted through the composition digitally to get my reference photo. So I've already painted through the painting and I know exactly how to get there. That is super helpful. It seems like it would take a longer time, but actually in the end it saves time, because you're not just aimlessly painting wondering what you need to do to get it to where you want it to be. And I would also like to say here, because I think it's really important for you as an individual, unique artist, don't try to necessarily copy somebody else's design process. I think, and I've seen this on YouTube with a lot of great artists, it seems to me that each one of them has a unique way of planning out their painting and getting to the place where they're confident enough to start painting and actually putting paint down on the canvas. There are people who plan out their painting by sketching it first. There are people who use digital paintings to come up with an idea for what they want to paint. There are people who digitally edit, maybe using Photoshop or GIMP or something like that, photos that either they have taken or just regular photos to get something that they want to paint. There are people who will look at multiple photos and just kind of compile them on the canvas. There's people who kind of combine all of this. There's so many different ways, in other words, to come up with a plan for your painting before you actually go to the easel and start painting. So that is very important for having confidence to know the direction of your painting and actually even know what you want to paint, because sometimes it's hard to even know what you really want to paint. From my own experience, I've had times where I had an idea of something I wanted to paint and I started coming up with a plan and found out that actually what I really wanted to paint was actually a little bit different than I first thought, and the design process helped me see that. And right here you can see how I mix my paint. I don't just have one pool of color that I continue to change. I have little pools that are kind of connected that I can continue to manipulate colors and have my old color that I had used for one thing still there in case I need to draw from it again. And that is helpful in this stage of the painting when you're getting more detailed and I have more color that I am using. And it just helps you stay organized with your paint colors and clean with them as well. And here I have let the canvas totally dry again so that I can go over the top of dry paint with these final details. And being that the paint on the canvas is dry, it allows me to apply these bright highlights without them mixing with any other paint. So they're going to stay pure and bright. And like you see here, I believe this was pure titanium white that I'm applying. And it's just going on really smooth and it's staying bright because it is going over a dry surface, not mixing with any paint. And I'm keeping in mind where the light is coming in. And I am thinking of my subject here, the wave, as a three-dimensional shape that's going to be catching the light in certain areas and then be shaded in other areas. So this all depends on where the light is coming from. And obviously having a reference photo to go off of is going to be very helpful in figuring out what areas are going to be highlighted and what areas are going to need to be shadowed. One of my favorite things to paint are the water droplets that are just getting totally illuminated by that sunlight that's hitting them directly. Really fun to paint. I don't want to go overboard with these highlights. I want to have a nice balance so that I get enough in there, but also don't go overboard with them. There's a little bit of a learning curve, and the more you do it, the more you'll get the hang of it. I am kind of infamous for going back over the top of an old painting that I thought was finished, but then the more I look at it hanging up, the more I think, well, maybe I didn't quite put enough on, so then I'll go back and add some more. I don't know if I'll do that with this particular painting. I might, who knows. Yep, you can see adding in the splashes. When you're doing the splashes, think of, especially when you're doing a seascape or something close up of splashing water that is very zoomed in, as in the case with this painting I'm working on, there's going to be a lot of swirls and kind of unique directions and shapes that the water is making. It's not just like the stereotypical splash that's circular. It's going to have form to it. It's going to be moving, and when there's white water, like with a seascape, it's often very foamy and will take on very interesting shapes when it's splashed and kicked up into the air like that. So that's really fun to paint. It's not hard. I would say just kind of do the unexpected. And if you don't like it, as you see me wiping with that shop towel, because the painting is dry, if I make a shape of the white water that I don't like, or I do a highlight somewhere that I don't like, then I can just take a shop towel and just wipe it right off, which is really convenient and a luxury that I really, really like, because I'm often second guessing my marks. But yeah, it's really helpful to be able to do that, like you see me doing right there, just wiping it off if I don't like it and starting again. Because the oil paint is very oily, it is going to be hard to get all of the paint off totally. Like you see, I was working it there. Even then, I still left a little residue of paint, but it's okay. I don't mind it the way that it ended up there. But just keep that in mind that it's very hard to get all of the paint off when you wipe it with the shop towel, just because it's so oily. And after this long painting project, the painting is now getting its last highlights, and we're gonna call it, for now anyway, done. That'll wrap it up for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for leaving likes, for comments, for subscribing, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Until then, God bless you guys. We'll see you later.